I took some time last week, even amidst recording all of our shows. I still took some time to myself, took the fam up to the lake in North Carolina.
How was that
And
lake
I
water
saw,
temperature?
dude, listen, this fucking place was phenomenal. I love Florida. Listen, we got 3 guys from Florida here. Anyone from Florida understands you're allowed to talk shit on Florida because you live in Florida and you could still love Florida, but I fucking hate Florida. But I love it. I'll tell you what, man, being up in North Carolina, me and my wife were talking about, like, when you breathe, it's like it's different up there. You're breathing in this thin, crisp air versus down here, you have this heavy, wet air that you breathe in that feels like you're just sick or something. I don't know, it's a congestion. And you know what we did? We were like, hey, listen, this is a business expense. We're looking at real estate. Let's figure out how we can buy an Airbnb and make this like our family estate compound. We are actively looking. It's one of those running jokes, right? When you go on vacation, you figure out that you want to live there and you try to find ways to. But we actually pre-planned that this is where, after much research.
You were going for research,
we went for research, and we said we looked at all the lakes. And I know John loves North Carolina too. And Carlos is from up north anyway. Maryland has this beautiful woods as well and mountains. But it's like, we went up there and we were not disappointed in the area, and it made us more than ever want what they call lifestyle Airbnbs. Not I don't want to run an Airbnb business. I feel, for all those that do it, I know it's profitable. I don't want that. I just want to make sure we're buying assets, not liabilities. And so that's what we're looking at. We're trying to find that sweet spot in price range versus ADR, your average daily rent, making sure it all makes sense. And when I wait a little bit, prices coming down because the economy is looking a little rough, right? I mean, we're looking at, like, I don't know, Carlos, what are your thoughts on this economy? Because we're thinking about waiting to buy it because the things up there are multi-million dollars. We're like, could we wait for prices to decline maybe $1 million on some of these houses?
Papa P, it is, and it's interesting you're talking about the breathing in the Florida air in comparison to the North Carolina air. I'd be curious what you think of the Baltimore City inner harbor where I have been the last 4 years.
In Baltimore, I don't breathe, Carlos. I don't breathe at all.
And that's kind of where the economy seems like it's heading, at least more towards Baltimore inner city air quality versus Florida and North Carolina, which I have family in Asheville, Papa P. I don't know if you know, it's absolutely beautiful up there. There's goats and cows walking around on mountains, and
maybe that's where my goats went. I have no more goats in my backyard. Maybe my goats are frolicking in the North Carolina. No, I didn't lose them. I didn't tell you this. My wife gave them away when I wasn't in town. She knew. Yeah. I mean, listen, she made a decision for the family that was in the best interest of the family that went against my interest. Yes, it was a weight on our time and income and just general chores in our family compound here. But damn, I came home and they were gone. And I was like, you got rid of them. I spent all that time building their barn and fence area, and you got rid of them.
Oh, God. That was a funny Instagram.
So I lost some
pulled the old bait and switch on you. I'm sorry to hear that.
But no, I mean, North Carolina is beautiful. I don't know, man, but everything got pretty pricey up there. But we're looking at a pullback in the economy. I mean, I know you were talking about it. Like, what's the economy looking like right now?
I mean, that is just that as keeping up as we all do in our own respective businesses. REI Op Center is coming out soon too, as well.
July 7th, pre-launch, baby. Talk about that. If you want in on Alpha Team, you want in on the tip of the spear team to be part of REI Op Center, you have to come to the webinar. And if you need a webinar link, you DM me. Otherwise, we're allowing a certain amount of people into our pre-launch team. It's going to be freaking epic. You're going to get all the bee's knees. You're going to get the best of everything to be a part of this pre-launch thing. July 7th, boom, ready, set, aim, and load.
I've been very excited telling people about that. I need to get the webinar link because
anybody
that's talking data management to me, they're like, man, I just need to put all this data somewhere, but I still want to use InvestorFuse. I go, July 7th, you're in a lot of luck. Despite the economy being like inner city Baltimore air quality, or at least that's the news, man. Everybody on Facebook, people that you talk to, masterminds in our mastermind group or Dan's mastermind group, the 80/20 Academy, talking to some people at Collective Genius. I mean, literally the theme for Collective Genius right now is how to dominate in the downturn. It is just here. It looks like it started with higher interest rates, and now that's leading to less hedge fund and institutional buyers buying,
Carlos,
pulling out of
man.
deals.
I'm
just saying that's what I see.
Listen, dude. Here's what I know.
Rap to us.
I don't know shit, but I'm just saying, based on what you just said, I'm not getting into the whole economy. I'm just saying, let's go. We all like the theory, buy when others are afraid, you know what I mean, and sell when others are greedy. But you also know that the tech downturn, 2008, yeah, there's a few rich people who saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming. So if you're doing the opposite of the crowd, and that's the wise thing to do, and all the crowd's talking about the downturn, wouldn't the opposite not to worry about the downturn? Because if everyone's worried about the downturn, maybe there's not a downturn coming. I'm just saying, and out of the 6 last recessions, only 2 of them pulled back. And let's be honest, out of the big ones, nobody fucking, unless you're the dude on the Big Short, you didn't see it coming, baby. You didn't see that coming. Very few people may have talked about it, but you didn't have masterminds and groups all going how to prepare for the 2008 mortgage crisis.
I agree with that too, and I've had a lot of similar thoughts. I mean, I think the mortgage crisis was a unique situation.
You don't predict bad shit, which is why it's bad shit.
Yeah.
No one predicted the Titanic was going to crash, right? The bad shit that happens in the world, we don't see coming. That's why it's so bad.
I always think back to like the beginning of COVID, because I remember that too. Everybody's like, "Oh my god!"
No one saw that coming.
But even then, hindsight is 2020, right? So everybody was like, "Oh my god, COVID! What's going to happen?" We even came up with we did a little webinar where we brought on a bunch of people to come give their opinions.
Multiple.
Yeah, and then a month, 2-3 months down the road, people are like, I guess nothing really happened there.
And you know what? And that's the thing. But again, that was after the fact, right?
Yeah.
That was after something happened. Here, people have been preaching this for ongoing. Now, market interest rates go up, which don't directly affect mortgage interest rates immediately. It's a Fed funds rate. It's completely different than the mortgage rate. Yes, it does trickle in, but it is completely different. But a lot of laymen don't understand that. They think immediately the Fed funds rate is what the mortgage rate is, and that's not true.
Well, break that down a little bit.
Fed funds rate is the interbank borrowing, is the interbank borrowing rate. Now, granted, it does have a lot to do with it, and so does credit of your borrower. That has a lot to do with it too, the quality of the borrower, which is completely different than what was happening in, 2000. What I'm going to say 2008, but actually 2007, 6, 5, and all that. I'm just saying, in COVID, it was after the fact that people panicked, held those meetings, sat down, talked about what to do, not before. Right now, it's before the bad shit is happening. And a lot of what you're hearing at Collective Genius is the preparation for it. I saw a hand go up, John. You got a kid waving their hand. Either that or John's hand shrunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a kid.
I don't know. I'm just saying. So but listen, I'm not disrespecting anybody at Collective Genius, because I know they are a group of geniuses and they are some very high net worth individuals and very successful people. But I don't know if I believe it.
I always think too, it's just like a bunch of hubbubaloo. Because in my mind, I was like, you know what? Yes, maybe a recession, something that you can't control, whatever, and sure, it might affect your business. But is it any different than any other challenge? You could have months where your KPIs suck, you brought the wrong data, your direct mail went to the whatever, and it's another problem that you just got to handle. We've had so many months that didn't go as we planned that were completely unrelated to a recession. So is it not just another business challenge that people need to calm down a little bit about?
That's a fair point. That's a fair perspective.
No. What it comes down to is it's not. I'll just be very clear. I feel like, well, maybe not as a company, I've made more money in this market cycle, but as an individual, where I was fucking crushing it as a new investor in 2009, 2010, 11, 12, working with the banks, all that. you can make money in any cycle. There's businesses to be made. The problem of where the fear stems from, in my belief, is getting caught with red-handed. You know, with the old game, hot potato.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting caught with the potato in your hand, and the potato being a house that you bought pre-crisis. Currently, and I have a property that I bought pre-crisis that's been taking us a while because, I mean, we've jackhammered foundations. We're doing everything under the sun to this thing, basically building a new house, and it's taken us time with the way labor and materials are. And that concerns me, not because I think the market's going to crash, but because I do believe softening is happening. I think fear in the regular retail people is causing a softening in the market. And so I just want to get rid of it. It's not that I think I'm not going to lose money. I bought it right. I just might not make as much as I was. And guess what? Carlos, I know you've talked to people, like there was stupid shit where I was putting something on where I thought it was worth like 220, 230. I put it on for like 270 or 260, and I was getting offers in the 270s or something. I made an extra like 40, 30 G's that I wasn't expecting just because of the craziness. I think that's going away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fair. That's very fair. But a lot of people are having like kind of like how you said when you started getting in, or I don't know, I can't remember if that's exactly when you started, but the last kind of time that something like this happened, you said you did really, really well. So people that have been in this space for the last few years have been doing really, really well. Is that going to weed out some people that may not have insight? Like I kind of want to hear your perspective since you were around and did success.
Do it.
Fuck
yeah, because you want to know what it's going to weed out? It's going to weed out the difference between where people mistake money for intelligence. Okay?
I love that.
So, yeah, a lot of people, anybody can make fucking money in an easy market. We can all fucking bankroll and get money when people are saying yes. It was like wholesaling in 2018 and 19, right? Like anyone can make money. But to make money in all kinds of markets requires intelligence, foresight, and planning to where you're selling into a market, selling a product or a service, right? Into a market that isn't 100% receptive because of the way the cycle is, or having to develop your own type of market within an industry, right? And that's kind of what it was. I mean, back in the day, I made a shit ton of money doing BPOs for banks, doing trash out for banks, but it wasn't something that was easy or where you made a shit ton of money for doing nothing, which is what wholesaling is effectively. You're making a shit ton of money just being a middleman, not doing a lot. And I'm not talking about the big organizations where you have a lot of employees, overhead structuring processes. That's not what I'm referring to. So I think, it's going to weed out the people that came in, got lucky, made money, and people mistake that money for intelligence and business. And then when the market crashes and they have to pivot, they're once again, it's what we talked about in the earlier episodes, going to be trying to pivot saying, oh shit, I never really learned how to run a business. I outsourced everything, or I cheated. I got on a 2-hour call. The guy told me what to plug and play, but I never figured it out for myself. I went to a VA company, hired a bunch of VAs, but never figured out how to do those things. So when the market changes and you're on your own. Yeah, so I think it's going to weed people out because there's a lot of other things you're going to have to pivot to. People who don't know short sales, people who don't know how to work with banks, people who don't know how to predict future pricing. I mean, those types of things, man. People who don't own any properties and strictly are a one-trick pony. People who only sold to hedge funds when hedge funds pause. Name it, man. Yeah. There's gonna be your poison, but a real businessman is able to pivot. I mean, yeah, it's gonna suck, dude, but I'll fucking wiggle, man. I'll wiggle and jiggle.
With the best of them. John, any insight there? You talk to a lot of people. Might be frozen.
John's frozen.
This episode's brought to you
by Pellegrino. I love my Pellegrinos, man. I love Topo Chicos the most, but Pellegrinos. John, you were frozen. You're back.
Am I back? All right, cool. It was still spinning there for a minute. I was going to say, it's an interesting thought you just said there about one-trick ponies and not understanding the whole idea of people saying multiple streams of income, just focus on one and make your million, and then don't have multiple streams. It just reminded me that I think they're two separate things, but it really does speak to the sense of how well do you know your business How confident in it are you? And I love that idea about like the outsourcing part. We talked about that so much on our show.
Yeah.
Like when you outsource, you don't understand how to do something. And
And he's frozen. And it takes
Suspense is killing me.
longer. It takes longer to build something from scratch
if-
than it is
let's
to
say-
outsource it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But the thing too is like, let's say you have to learn a new strategy, you have to learn short sales, and at the same time you're having to cut expenses, and now you're suddenly finding yourself cold calling to try and figure stuff out. Like if you haven't done that before, if you haven't been there, it's going to be a whole lot harder for you.
One of the reasons why I'm not scared is because I've done it all.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's going to suck and it may be painful, and I may have to let some people go or whatever it is, but like the company's going to survive. It's survived everything. I mean, no matter whether, not just the cycles, but it kind of like this, like the same people, right? The problem I have, Carlos, with what you were saying is people don't look at the whole picture. If you believe we're in a recession and market's going to crash, you have to think about why and what that does to people's incomes and costs, like their disposable income, right? So the same people that are saying this are also people who run large Airbnb businesses.
Mhm.
And some of those people are still touting, I see it on Instagram or on YouTube, buying Airbnb, but those same people are saying you got to prepare for the downturn. I hate to break it to them, but if you're in a vacation secondary market like that, I'm not going on vacation if I can't afford to buy it. The reason why people are Airbnbs are doing well is because we have expendable income, right? This disposable income that we're going on these expensive, because Airbnb ain't cheap. It's like Netflix and Hulu, right? Back in the day, I don't know if you remember, Hulu used to be free. Netflix was like $4.99, and you got everything. Now, I tried to buy something to watch a movie over the weekend, and Hulu's fine print said it'll be a recurring payment when you add this on to $92.67 a month. It's not cheap anymore. Airbnbs, between service fees, they book on average a 14% service fee charged directly to the person booking. It's a booking fee that they charge to the booker, right?
Yeah.
3% to the Airbnb host.
Mhm.
This shit ain't cheap anymore. And what happens when someone says, well, it's not $300 a night, it's now an extra $360 or whatever, it's $360, or it's not $400, it's $500, your Airbnb business goes down. And I don't see them pivoting that, otherwise we'd be in extreme trouble. And I don't necessarily think that's going to go down.
That's an interesting side topic. Let's like branch into this, because I read a whole article about like the millennials' way of living has now gone down because tech companies all were based off the stock market, all had these crazy valuations. They've all come down. VC firms are like, you gotta make money. You can't just like have a runway and burn cash now. And so like Uber prices have jumped up, like Airbnbs, because they're all like, we need cash. We can't just we can't function at a deficit anymore. And so that's going to increase the cost of all of these like different things that people were used to, like being able to do very easily. Uber Eats, like getting your food delivered, and then Airbnbs as well. And people are going to start being like, well, I'm just not going to do that anymore.
That's the thing, is they're not going to. And so, yeah, I could see some of that happening. I'm not in the Airbnb. I don't necessarily believe in the Airbnb strategy. I don't want to be in the hospitality industry, okay? I'm not a hospitable person, okay? I don't want to deal with you. I strictly want my lake house, and I want it to make me some money. And I'm trying to find a way to do that where you're not going to use and abuse my freaking family's house up on the mountains. I'll find a way. It's about getting at the right price point. But anyway, I see that like if, and I'm not saying it will happen, but if you do believe the recession's coming, how can you believe that an industry like Airbnbs is going to survive? Because I was down here in 2009 when, I don't know if people from Florida understand that the Davenport, long before Airbnbs, Davenport outside of Disney in Kissimmee, Buena Vista, had these what we call short-term rental communities. Yeah. Where the HOAs allowed weekly rentals to families coming, and then Canadians and Europeans would buy a house, they were big 5-bedroom cookie cutters, long before Airbnb. They'd buy it right off of 92, so that way they could head straight into the Disney Parkway. And the first thing that went under in Florida was that market.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're in shit, what do you give up? You give up that
The
second
luxuries.
Yeah, you give up that. So I remember back in the day, I was doing BPO's valuations for the banks and handling their foreclosures. I don't know, man, like 70% of my business was in Davenport. Those little condos in Kissimmee, those little townhouses that they do, those planned communities. And I don't see that was then, and Airbnbs are now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that's going to fare if you're going to tell me, Carlos, that the economy, everyone's saying the economy is going to go down and we need to quote unquote prepare.
I think there's room though for people to drop prices. I mean, in the Airbnb market, I think it's kind of like the housing market. People have just been like,
what do you do? Okay, but the only reason why, because I've done the math, because I am trying to buy one. The reason why that is because of the house pricing. I looked at a house that sold in 2015, 16 for like $200K. It's now on the market for like 1.395 mil. And I was telling my wife, I was like, fuck, we missed the boat by like a couple years. $200 or whatever $1,000 is a phenomenal Airbnb price. But if I buy it, like John said, that's why the Airbnb prices are going up, because housing prices are going up. In order for me to buy it and turn it into an Airbnb, my ADR has to be like $500 to $600 a night minimum, with a certain occupancy for me to get that house. Mm-hmm. And so if the market crashes and you want a cheaper rent, I now can't make my mortgage payments and pay all my management fees and my Airbnb fees.
Well, that's interesting. With your price point, though, of that ADR, aren't you kind of hitting the people that are less impacted by a recession?
You know, you would think so, but no. Because, because Airbnbs go way up. So I looked at there's $1,000 a night. And it really... So we did the math, right? So think about this, John, you got kids. So if I'm going up to a place and I want to get a hotel, I'm going to, on average, a decent size hotel, I'm going to spend what, $200-$300 a night?
Yeah.
Okay. And then because it's a hotel, I got to buy food. And with kids, food's expensive. Those motherfuckers keep eating. It's like, they just don't stop. So you're going to spend another couple $1,000 between food, snacks in the morning, snacks for the room, snacks for the trip, and then also dinner, eating out, breakfast. Hopefully they have a continental, but you can't fit your whole family in one fucking room for $300 a night. So you might need 2 rooms. So now you're at $600. Whereas that Airbnb I stayed at was like a $650 a night. It wasn't nice. It was it was a great location though. But so what's better for that family? They will feel the pain of a recession. They're not wealthy, but at $600 a night, it makes sense for you and your wife. You got how many kids?
3. I've never paid $600 a night for an Airbnb though. And
we wanted to be on the lake too. So I was on.
Yeah, I mean, location is a key part to that. Yeah,
the ones in the mountain were cheaper. The ones in the mountain were cheaper, but this was lakefront with the dock and the boat. You know what I mean? Like in the.
I had a boat.
No, I paid separate for the boat. Which
I was about to say, if it came with a boat, I might pay $600.
But there was, again, this is a nicer area. But John, I feel like that category is in the higher.
You feel like that recession-proof price point is higher than that money value? I mean, recession-proof. I don't want to say that.
Yeah, I know what you meant, though.
Less likely to be impacted.
I guess where I come back to is if what we're saying is true, or what Carlos is saying is true, and there is going to be a recession from these people all preparing, a recession by its very nature, right, means pain on who? The citizens, when citizens, not the wealthy, John.
No, right? No, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
But even the wealthy run into problems. But I mean, they're not going to have money to spend, and if they don't, they're not going on vacations, and that's going to hurt the hospitality industry. And Airbnb is not in real estate; it's hospitality. Right? That's my belief. I look at Airbnbs as a hospitality industry, and they suffer in recessions.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, COVID was like a nice mini recession. You got to see like immediately like that stuff stopped.
Well, what happens, John, when you go into a recession and now hospitality goes under? Big hotels have credit lines and they can handle things, but Airbnb can't make their payments.
Right. They're going to
go into hard money. Because a lot of these Airbnbs aren't done through regular funding banks. A lot of them are on short-term style hard money loans that they expect to refi out of. Well, refis get harder as rates go up. And banks start refiing is a completely different loan product. So it's a trickle-down effect that people don't predict, that if that's what you believe, well, then Airbnbs start to trickle down to where they suffer. If those people, and they can carry on, man. I'm sure those people have enough profits to carry the load for a couple months. Can they do it for 12 months?
Right.
8 months? Where's the cutoff?
We'll see. Sounds like an undercover billionaire episode. We'll send Papa P up to Baltimore and see if he can do a Baltimore rental and Airbnb business. I just want you to smell the Baltimore air as one of the themes.
I've been to Baltimore, bud. We used to. But anyway, I mean, what else are these people doing?
No, this is great.
Credit
stuff,
lines.
though.
What
this
else?
Is great stuff, though. Cutting expenses. And I would even say just to correct Pop P, people aren't saying it's coming. People are saying that we're in the thick of it right now.
Oh yeah, I think by definition on July 1st we'll find out when it officially is over. When we roll in, because you have to have 2 quarters of GDP decline, right, for it to be considered an official recession. So I think in first week of July they're going to announce that it is. So yeah, I believe we are. Mm-hmm. But again, a recession doesn't mean house crash, and that's where we're separating the two.
People are still like, even the common person, I think, and that's the interesting issue here. The common person associates recession to 2008 and the housing crash, and they're just like I mean, I've had conversations with my sister-in-law. She's in the process of refinancing her house, and she's like, "Oh man, the recession's coming." It's like, it's not going to be a housing crash like 2008. Yeah. That was an entirely separate set of conditions that caused something freaking crazy that hopefully will never be repeated.
Exactly. I mean, as long as the loan products and everything, but I mean, I think it's going to be how about this? Let's put it this way. It's going to be a resetting of buyers' expectations for your fucking income class. There's a lot of poor motherfuckers who were living large in $400,000 houses that probably should have never been. Because with a $400,000 house comes a lot more type of repairs, bigger houses. I guess what I'm saying is they were able to step up where 5 years ago they shouldn't have been able to. They should have been in that smaller 3-bed, 2-bath home. Interest rates were so cheap. They're like, man, I can get a $400K. I can get a house on half an acre, an acre. I can get a bigger condo. I could go up on a higher floor in my building. They could afford that. Whereas now, so that's the thing. I think is we're going to reset some expectations where people who were looking at 500-600K homes now have to look at 400K homes. And so they're not going to get all the same stuff. And they're going to have to be okay with that. But guess what? That's how it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I always think about that too, because I looked at the charts of like what the interest rates were over the last 20 years. And I'm like, we're just at the point where we were.
When I was buying houses, my house loan was at like 5.5% because
and people were like, that's normal, that's fine. Like everybody's like gotten into this lovely government
it's all relative in life. Things are all relative.
One of the government funded after COVID time period where interest rates were like all-time lows.
Now we talked about cutting expenses. I mean, we have here I wouldn't say cut expenses, but Brittany, my wife, I always reference her. She is phenomenal. She has pretty much where I like to just spend money. She likes to cut money. She has gone through and make sure we don't have anything we don't need. We've truly made sure our personnel is who we need. I mean, I'm not firing people. In fact, we're hiring people. I've got ads out right now. I'm hiring more closers. We just hired a couple more cold callers for our team and a new QA.
Yeah, we have the same kind of philosophy here, and I like to approach it in an interesting manner, and like we have not fired anybody, nor do I have any plans to do that here. Gone through same thing, kind of looked at all expenses, made sure they are exactly what we need, nothing more. But I like to kind of also look at it and say, okay, this is like I've done my due diligence. Here we are. We're going in the forward this way. But then I have like this backup plan. And it's like, okay, so if things keep going, and let's say for us as a SaaS business, churn increases, so more customers cancel, and then new customers aren't coming in to replace that, and the income starts to decrease, then I'd be like, okay, we're gonna have to cut again. So what's the next level that we can afford to do? What is it? People? Is it expenses? And then just be prepared for that. not making that decision now. Like I'm very in tune with our finances, very in tune with our KPIs, have a complete understanding of what we're doing month to month, week to week, day to day. And so as soon as I can see that start to happening, I'll protect our cash flow and our ability to operate and support our customers and, pull that decision out if I need to. But yeah, nothing drastic has changed right now at all.
I agree. I mean, again, I'm not predicting. Listen, man, I made the mistake of thinking that in 2020, before COVID, because I felt some stuff was happening, I sold shit. And you know the story. I sold duplexes, quadruplexes, all my rentals, not all of them, but most of them. And I was dead wrong. I'm not making that mistake again.
Mm-hmm. It's all a long-term play.
But you got to buy better. You got to buy better. So forget about expenses. Let's just make sure we're not getting caught with our pants down. I mean, Carlos, what are people doing on the buy side of things? Investors, flippers, wholesalers. What are you hearing with your ear to the ground of the way people are handling? Maybe let's not just say wholesalers, flippers, but let's just say when you're on the phone with a seller, are people doing things different?
It sounds like it, man, and it's been a pulse that we've kind of been leading up to, talking the last few episodes. I feel like this is the first week where people are kind of all united on agreeing that we're kind of in it. So what I've been seeing is just underwriting deals slightly more, probably offering around 90% of what they typically would in general. And the interesting thing for me that I've been hearing is they're kind of just openly talking to sellers about what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, hey, the comps that I showed you, that's kind of the height of where stuff has been selling at. We've been in this period where stuff has been selling like crazy, people buying at a premium, hedge fund buyers buying anything and everything. But we are now trending down where it is not going to be that high of comps. So those are two related things that I'm kind of seeing with my ear to the ground. People kind of buying at 90% of what they typically have been the last couple of years, and then really just introing those conversations to sellers once it starts getting to the point where they're actually wanting your number out of what they are. Because these sellers, like they've heard, and it'd be interesting to see as the next few months play out, if sellers kind of are more understanding of that, or they're kind of hearing that as well, like, oh, my house price is either like staying the same or might go down. So that's the two kind of things. I'd be interested to pop in the comments if you guys are listening live to this, or add a comment on YouTube wherever you're hearing this. But that's what I'm kind of seeing is my ear to the ground.
I guess I was going to say, it's not so much the way to say it is, it's not so much like where you're saying buying it at 90%. You're talking about the buy side of things. I'm looking at the comp side of things. So a lot of times wholesalers, and so we do training daily in my office. No matter how long you've been with us, you still get treated every day. We cover the topics over and over again. Looking at the comps, a wholesaler can easily say, if there's an average, you learned in the statistics, you have your low end, your high end, your median, your average, right? You can look at the top end, and lately that's what everyone's been doing. They see a house selling at 275, and they're like, oh, that's ARV. Let me do my formula. Boom. Let me buy at 90% of that. That still doesn't work in my book. So what we're teaching people is to look at the comps and understand that what's at the very top is not going to happen. Because again, we were chasing the top over the last couple of years. If you were at 275, I'm at 280. If you're at 280, I'm now listing at 285. And so that was what was happening, is people would find one comp at the top and they'd say, that's your ARV. A couple months later, the flippers finish and they're like, oh, well, it was 280 a month ago. Prices are going up. Let me try 285. So we're looking at things of like, okay, instead of 275, we're looking on an average pullback. If things start to slow down 10, 20%, we want our ARVs to be more like 250 and then work backwards from there, in that kind of example where I'm telling people, where's the median at? Where do you see the meat of sales happening? And let's base it off of that, and then make sure we're covering our expenses properly, and we're also putting a bigger fee on the middle.
Sound strategy. I think
either way you're not wrong, but
yeah. We talked this earlier about the people that this type of stuff can weed out those that are not knowledgeable, but those that were scraping by with small margins to begin with. just like offering as much as they possibly can to get the contract, as opposed to like what we talk about on the show is making the best decision for you as a business, making the best decision for your end buyers. Because you're talking there, like look at the median, go down from that, compensate for a price. Like a buyer is going to look at that and be like, they just did all the math that I need to make sure that I can still make money off of this at the end of the process, as opposed to somebody who's going to come in super high and there's no wiggle room. They'll never
100%.
sell.
And you know what? We can explain that to sellers more. So in our company, we educate, but we don't really go through comp by comp because I call it friction. We create too much friction when we do that because it gives people the ability to argue with us about how nice their house is and all that. But we do set ranges of where values generally are and kind of go from there. And so when people want to say, oh, my home's worth 275, we're able to say, well, I see this one here and this one here and this one here. And it's easier to explain that to them. But Carlos was saying the conversation with the seller, what are you saying to them? So we are building urgency in a way to where we're saying to them, hey, listen, I understand you're probably watching the news. You sound like a smart person and you understand what's happening in the market right now. So my team is authorizing us to buy a certain amount of properties. Here's where we're at with things and what we can offer based on what's happening in the current economy. You know, is this something you're ready to move forward today? Because I don't know what we'll be able to offer in the future. For example, we had one where we were trying to buy a multifamily property, at 1.35, and it was at like a 7 cap or whatever. So we went back to them, and that's where they wanted to be. And I had our acquisition go back, and we said, hey, listen, you understand what's happening in the economy right now. You know, previously buying at a 7 cap, we were able to buy. And right now our team is saying that anything under an 8 or a 9 cap, if it's not signed, we have to cancel it and move forward with purchasing things between 8 and 9. Honestly, we'd love to be at a 10 cap, but we know that's probably not as possible. You know how the market is. But we need to be at 8 or 9, which puts us down from a 1.35. Honestly, we need to be more around the 1.1 to 1.2. And then I think we negotiated for like 1.25, which still is going to be a good deal. But kind of explaining it to them like that and using the numbers and saying, hey, listen, we can't do 7% cap rates anymore. You know how the market is. And they usually agree because they are watching Fox News or CNBC or, you know what I mean? They're watching the CNN and channels like that.
Yeah, beautifully said. And the producers in my ear actually to clip that as a social media post, because that's something that you guys could take, as a loose script of just how you're framing conversations with sellers, almost like an assumptive, like, oh, you know how it is. Like you're looking at the news right now. You
compliment them.
Yeah,
even if they don't, they're going to agree with you because no one wants to sound
smart.
stupid.
You're educated. I mean,
hey, listen, I know you understand where the market is. I mean, based on the conversation, it sounds like you basically do this business. And they're like, oh, yeah.
I've talked to other sellers. You're clearly the smartest one I've spoken to.
This is the most intelligent convo I've had all day, honestly. I mean, you probably watch all the news and know what's going on. I mean, my team is pretty strict on what we're buying. But, I mean, we're still buying. There's money to be made in all markets, right? Yeah. Well, here's what I'm approved to do. And you kind of go through that. And they're willing to work with you on that. They just don't like when people lowball them without what Carlos said it. We call it framing, right? We frame it on the front end, the back end, and we stick it in the middle. We frame it. And when you explain it with framing, they understand why you're offering that price because you kind of led into it and just go. The other opposite would be, hey, listen, my team said we can't do 1.35. We said based on the economy, we need to be down at 1.25. They would have felt that friction and they would have argued with us. Instead, we framed it in a better way for him to understand it and for him to accept it and seem like it wasn't us doing it to him. It was us working together.
Mm-hmm. For anybody listening, update the way that you're talking to sellers, rewind it, or listen to the social media clip. Papa P just gave 5 minutes of gold there of how not only you, but your team can just set some frames in place when working with sellers, and might be going on for quite a good bit. But I absolutely love how you frame that in talking with sellers. Thanks,
man. I was watching, to go rewind it back, I was watching Steve Trang, and he had said something pretty wise, and I'm going to butcher it, but he said you have about 1 to 2, I think it was, I'm going to say 2 to 3 months, I think he said, 2 to 3 months during something like this to find out who's wrong and who's right. So he was like, and that was the same thing. And he used Ryan Pineda as an example during COVID. And he was saying everyone was panicking. Well, most people were panicking. And Ryan Pineda was like, hey, listen, like, I don't think the market's going to crash. And he just kept buying everything people were backing out of. He was buying, and he turned out to be right. And it took, and I remember, because I didn't believe the market was going down. It didn't make sense to me. We were still pushing deals out, and we had buyers going, no, I can't buy. We had one guy back out and then come back after he calmed the fuck down. And that's the thing, is like, it takes time for people to catch up and say, I'm going to be afraid. Oh, wait, there's nothing to be afraid of. And if you keep moving forward, then you're good to go. And Ryan Pineda turned out to be okay. And that's the thing. In a couple months, it's going to sort out, man, who's ever right or wrong. But as a business, you live and die by your choices. So it's your choices are a direct result of your future. So your future is a direct result of your choices, is how it's said. But anyway, yeah. So that's how it's going to go, man.
And overall, I think I can speak for the totality of this fine group of Florida gentlemen that although there is a lot of, I guess, pessimistic outlooks or negative outlooks on stuff that's going on, I think that we all believe that the also pretty popular notion that like the biggest transfers of wealth or a ton of people have had big leaps in their success and their wealth during down times in the economies and markets and everything like that, if you're willing to look and find the opportunities. So I think no matter what industry you're in, even if stuff is going on bad with the market, whatever, I think there's going to be a ton of ways that you can either adapt or continue what you're doing if you're doing a good job and come out wildly successful on the other side, which us three are all going to do. REI Op Center, July 7th.
REI Op Center. Speaking of which, it is about saving money and time. And I know next week we have an Investor Fuse webinar going on where I'm going to talk about how we resurface leads to save money, right? And it's something that my team is a huge part of, is making sure our closers focus on closing while we resurface all of our old leads, which is going to save on marketing. And then we're going to have something like REI Op Center, which is going to link into it and is going to help make your CRM better and make sure you're not remarketing stuff that's already in your CRM. And those are ways, too, that you're able to make sure you're not spending money wantonly on things or, on things that you don't need to spend it on, to make sure you're more efficient, I guess.
Efficient with your time, too, not just where you put your money, because you're putting your money into time, too.
Money and time, exactly. Those are big things, man. And that's the thing. You just got to be smart with it. You got to be able to pivot. More money to be made in a down market. And, think about it. Bad times create strong men. Enough said. Boom.
Absolutely. How you handle challenges.
The other thing is you can buy. So one of the things we're doing is I am actively looking at, these are multiple printouts of mobile homes. I'm going to see one on Tuesday. We are looking at purchasing mobile home parks for the cash flow. And I don't know if that has much to do with the recession, guys, as it does to do as the overall plans that we've had for our company, right? Like our empire, our company, and having cash flowing assets is a great way to survive a recession too. That's not necessarily why we're doing it. We are looking now because I notice, and a lot of these guys are asking a shit ton of money for some of these parks. And I think it's a good time to buy some because they want to get their prices. And my wife's always in my ear and she's like, well, is that too much? And I'm a believer in, I don't think there's such a thing as too much for a property. I was like, I don't care what I pay for it. I said, it's all based on the terms. I said, if we're making money, we're making money. I said, what is our goal? And Carlos recommended a good book, Starting at the End, right? Remember, it's like you start at the end of your business and you plan backwards. And I was like, if our goal is to hold this thing for 30 years, does it matter if I pay an extra $100,000 a day as long as we're profiting with free cash flow and we have positive cash flow? So if I can give these people what they want, but they accept my terms, right, on a seller finance or a down payment or the interest rate, and I get them their price, does it matter that I pay an extra $150 today to make them happy if in the end I'm going to hold this thing for 15, 20, 30 years, if that's our goal? So that's something we're looking at. What is our goal long term? Well, I'm not buying these to flip them in 5 years. I'm a hoarder, baby. Don't come to my house. You will see shit that you don't want to see. I keep shit. I will. I was trying to hoard some goats and I wasn't allowed to. I will hoard all the goat parts. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, like, as long as you're making a profit on it, like a lot, now is a time where you could try, if you got terms that you can make it work for you, you might be able to offer a seller what they want. And then that seller is going to say, shit, I better hurry up because I might not be able to get this price in a couple months if the recession does happen or is going to continue.
I think you will always be able to be more flexible on a long-term decision than a short-term decision. If you're like I'm looking to have a cash flowing property for 30 years versus I'm trying to flip this house in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Like how you think about both of those decisions is completely different.
I didn't understand that, dude. I did not know that when I was in my 20s. I always wanted a deal, shave off 5K. You know how many properties I probably lost because of that mentality? 5K, 10K, 20K. And now those properties are worth like hundreds of double, 2X, 3X, 4X more.
Mm-hmm.
I know a guy who did that. He bought a bunch of duplexes in one of the hottest, what is now the hottest area. People thought he was crazy because he was paying list price back in like 2010, 11 for these duplexes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Guy's set, dude. He had a long time. It wasn't a 5-year play. It's those are going to his kids type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting, just like the combination of what you're offering, the terms, like your buy box, and then the longevity of your play. I think if you're, I don't like to use the word conservative, but if you're just making good choices and having the perspective in mind, then you can always kind of win and succeed in that. It's those people that are running out there and just being like, I gotta make $3,000. And that's all that they're focused on, and they're making the worst decisions in what they're offering and what they're trying to sell for and how they're trying to treat that house. And they're the ones that are going to really feel that pain when they've made those bad choices. And like I didn't mention it back then when we were talking about Airbnbs, but the same kind of thing. People saw what was happening with Airbnbs in the last 2 years, and I'm sure some people went in and made some bad choices on the hopes that it will pay off. And now here we are, and like that might be one of the first things affected, and they're going to feel that pain.
So there's a difference between income, right? Making money or not making money, in debt service. People don't run into problems because they either are making not as much or no money at all. People run into problem because their expenses have gotten ahead. So when their income takes a dip, and debt service can mean anything from your own personal home mortgage, rent, your food, your monthly bills, your car payments, all those things. But it also means your debt service on the properties that you're carrying. So that's the thing. And that's something you might not be able to cut, especially if you can't sell those properties, right? So if you didn't think about those terms and you take a dip in income, like, so for us, I mean, we're always cautious on our end of what we're carrying and what we buy. A recession might hurt, but we're not going to be in a bankruptcy situation or in a foreclosure situation. I saw way too many foreclosures to put myself in that type of thing. And we also keep in our family, we keep our personal debt down. We don't, I mean, like credit cards are bad debt, credit lines, mortgages, those are good debt. I mean, everyone knows that. I don't know, man. I mean, but again, when you're buying things like quads, mobile home parks, duplexes, apartments, you need to be looking at things of what happens. Can I afford this in a recession? And typically, if you bought it right, you should be good. I think there could be fear for people in like what happens if you only had $100 free cash flow on a property and you lose a tenant?
Yeah.
What happens to all the sub 2 people? And I love sub 2, don't get me wrong, a phenomenal way of doing things. But if you are not the type of person who is planned properly and you're paying on this mortgage and you lose a tenant or a repair comes up and you're not able to do that because the rest of your income levels have declined, that's when we start running into some problems. And I think there's a lot of people who got into this stuff that didn't properly plan for those things because times were good. And that's going to be a problem if they can't pay on somebody else's mortgage like they promised to, or pay on their own mortgages.
Yeah. Absolutely.
A lot of it starts at how you're getting into a deal and I guess thinking about what you guys just kind of outlined, like what happens if things go sour, if you have to have a repair on a property or tenant doesn't pay.
Yeah.
Be
Good
interesting to
times
see
don't
how
always
stuff.
last.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how stuff shakes out here in future. Let's
Yeah.
talk real estate
Well, think about this.
episodes.
People always say rentals are freedom, right? You're in a cash flow. Okay. You're not really cash flowing. Don't shoot me. Just wait a second. You're not really getting free cash flow. If I'm cash flowing $200 a month on a property after my taxes, my insurance, my payments, my lawn maintenance, whatever it is you have to do on that property, you don't get to fucking spend that $200.
Right. Got save up for the
Yeah. Well, Brandon,
yeah.
I already accounted for this type of I fixed the sink this month. That's my money. No, it's not. That needs to go into an account. I believe there's maybe at a certain point of like 100 properties, I would put a number on that. Maybe you could start to spend some of that monthly income. That's where a lot of landlords make mistake. And a lot of the landlords that we deal with are those people with deferred maintenance because they're not rolling that free cash flow back into their properties or setting it aside in a separate bank account. They're trying to live off it immediately, and you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And we're going to see some problems like that because although I don't think housing is going to crash, I think it could be a trickle-down effect where some of these people really get caught with their pants down.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm
okay with it.
Rents are going up too, though. I just got so we rent, and anyways, and they just sent us our new lease, and it's going up $272. It's the biggest increase.
Leads us into Pulse of the Week. Yes,
okay.
I read that.
Let's do it.
Well, no, I mean, I saw somebody else saying that. I saw a video, and the guy was talking about his rentals. He was up in Ohio, and he said, yeah, I'm going to raise rents. My costs are getting more expensive, too. It's not that I want to or I'm going to raise them a lot, but he said, my costs go up to just maintain and run the business. You know what I mean? Like materials for repairs, taxes, insurance, everything gets more expensive. So they're raising rents. They pass the cost on. That's what people don't fucking get. It's why McDonald's raised their prices too. They thought paying those fucking cashiers fucking $13 an hour was a genius move until their Big Mac cost twice as fucking much.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too. And I mean, it made me think too, because yes, like I was immediately like, yeah, I understand business costs continue to grow, especially if there's inflation right now. Like everything's a bit more expensive, that they have to account for that in what they're trying to do. But it also kind of just like made me think of like landlords in general and like what is their philosophy? Are they ultimately trying to price people to move out of the house? Because I mean, I rent from a giant national corporation, Invitation Homes. Like they got, thousands upon thousands of homes, and like they're like we had small landlords before. We just happened this one happened to be we loved the house and location, so it happened to be a big national corporation. But anyways, like I can't really talk to somebody and be like, hey, so what's your plan here? Do you want me to move out because you're trying to price me out?
No, big hedge funds they got to meet their numbers, man. They plan. So when they do this, they're planning on certain type of returns, right? And by raising rent, they're also increasing. So they don't get to see the value. They don't get anything depending on their accounting standards, they do get accounting benefits from the increase. But I mean, I guess they don't get cash flow because your house goes up $200,000 over the last 10 years that they've owned it. That doesn't do much for them. But the raise in income of your rent rates does increase. Multiply that by 9,000 homes that they own or whatever it is. That's what gets them more profits. So they don't want you to leave. Now, on the opposite side, a small landlord does. So like when I buy something and I got a renter in there, if it's not a shitty one, if it's a shitty one, I want them to stay so I don't do repairs. But if it's not a shitty one, then I'm going to go to you, hey, listen, you could pay an extra $300 a month. And you're going to say, no, my lease is up. You can't do that to me. I'm saying, when your lease is up, you're going to do this. And then you leave. And guess what? I don't give a shit because I'm just going to jack the rent up anyway because you were under rent. So small landlords do need to maximize that. But in your situation where they've owned it that long, it's just how they make more money, man. They have to increase their rents in order to pick up the extra costs that they're carrying.
Yeah. It was interesting. Like our rent's gone up every year that we've been here. This is
Yeah.
the largest increase. It's more than double what they've done before. Which was like an interesting, like, oh, well, here's the pulse. And two, like the housing market too, like rents have been going up for the last, I was on a 2-year lease. So I locked in my rate 2 years ago.
So they just doubled it because they had to make up for the year that you didn't do it. See, they got
Right, and I was wondering that too. I was like, man, I really want to just like chat with somebody about this price. Not for something that I want to argue, but I'm just like,
just have a chart
I need to learn
where your rent's supposed to be each year, and they get to do that. I mean, for them, it's non-emotional. It's non-emotional.
Exactly.
We make all of our money, for anybody watching, on the emotional landlords. Most of the landlords we buy properties from are people that don't raise the rents because they like their tenants, and then they don't have enough money to take care of the property, and the property actually declines in value, not inclines, or it doesn't increase as much as it could. It increases at a slower scale.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dude, for quick kind of pulse, ear to the ground stuff. There's a dude, Matt Larson, who I've mentioned before. He's like Iowa area, but super, super successful guy, has been doing this for a while. And he thinks that rents are not going to increase. He thinks they're either going to, and this is probably over the course of the next year or so. So people that might be in like a situation like John or I who rent and will have a lease coming up, a lease renewal coming up. He thinks what's going to happen is that a lot of people, instead of like trying to buy a house or rent their own property, are going to kind of just adapt with the times, and we're going to see more people that move in with their family and things like that, which is going to eliminate renters from the market space and is going to have rents either stay the same or go down. He's like, that's what people don't account for in all these numbers. Are people just adapting to survive?
There's so many caveats. We're moving somebody out of a house right now. He's moving in with his sister. We're moving out another one over in Winter Haven. They're moving in with their brother.
Seeing a ton of that.
But I got another guy who's looking for a place. We're moving him out. We're doing a postdoc. He's probably going to rent. So it's, there you go. Out of 3, 2 people are moving in with family. One's going to look for a rental if he can't find something to buy. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. And that's the thing. People think housing is just going to crash. It's so complex with all the different, it's like a spider web of and all these different strands that tie into what makes housing pricing, right? Like hedge funds are an aspect of it, but pulse of the week, hedge funds some of them have slowed down or stopped buying, and they don't do it permanently because, again, everyone who's afraid hedge funds are going to stop buying are wrong. It's their business. They need to do this because in order for them, so hedge funds notoriously make money on like a 2 and 20 or whatever their plans are, meaning they make money under assets under management. The more assets they have under management, the more they do. And how they get assets under management is by getting investor funds. Those investors want them to invest their funds. If they don't want to give it to them. It is harder for investors holding a large $2 billion, $5 billion, $10 billion fund to place those funds. And if they don't place them, investors want to pull it back. So they need to put the money in. But what they're going to do is they're going to pause unapologetically, unemotionally, pause. And they could pause for a month and not have it affect their business, but they will buy. They're not out of the industry. They're going to buy, just not today. And that does fuck with wholesalers, right? When I read that and I was like watching these Instagram videos and people are panicking. Of course, now people are selling the webinar. If you're worried about this, join my webinar and I'll show you how to buy even more discounted deals. Like, okay, dude. Okay. You could have showed me long before the hedge fund stopped buying. But your causality. So that's the thing is they will, because it's how they make their money. An entire industry isn't going to go under because of this. Again, they're just going to want to buy cheaper. What they're doing most likely is reevaluating how to buy, what their new Excel model is going to look like, taking time to reevaluate what markets to focus on. So things are going to shift to that respect, in my opinion.
I think that's a super valid opinion. I'm excited to watch everything. I think it's just, the good times are good and it's fun to watch everybody have success, but it's interesting. Like a shakeup's always fun. And like we can have these guessing conversations and be like, man, I wonder what's gonna happen. Like,
I have no idea.
And then we'll be prepared, and I think the best thing to do is approach this not with fear. And I unfortunately think a lot of news And then people selling courses are approaching this with fear to stroke people's fear up and be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I hate that approach.
People selling courses, baby.
Yeah.
People selling courses. Love it. Everyone's selling a course nowadays. And you know what? I mean, that's okay. Everyone's got to make their money somehow, and you can't knock on them because there's ways to make money. But I'm not trying to sell a course. I'm just trying to sell you the best software possible, which is either InvestorFuse or RIA Op Center, depending on your needs.
Yeah, why not both?
Boom, boom, boom. The other pulse of the week, I'm going to throw this to Carlos. John, I'm sorry, you're out of this.
That's all right, cool. I'll just see you guys.
Carlos, did you see my man Eminem and Snoop Dogg are just teamed up on a Bored Ape Yacht Club video with their apes, and they did like a little mini movie where like it's like from the D to the LAX or whatever, where Eminem goes from Detroit to LA, but it's all based on like they animated their apes into them and they made up a song. You know what I mean? It's like I just saw it. I mean, it was literally just released today. I haven't seen the movie. I saw the clip on Instagram. Like, and again, this goes to NFTs where people have the rights to their ape or mutant ape or whatever it is, right? There's so many of them. And it goes into Seth Green recently he was going to create an entire show around his ape. And then somebody stole his ape out of his wallet, which then meant he lost the intellectual rights to use that ape in his new TV show. So either he has to get it back. And I don't know, this was like 2 weeks ago, actually, but I don't know if he got it back or he's got to pay the hacker to get back his ape if he wants to carry on this TV show. But it goes to show what people are doing with their NFT or their apes or whatever it is that they're using. And I thought that was cool, man.
I saw the title. I haven't seen the video or anything yet, but I did glance and see the title somewhere today. And there was also the NFT, the big NFT conference in New York City.
Yeah, they had Ape Fest. They had Ape Fest, a big music concert too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like all crazy people. Yeah, I mean that's absolutely crazy. One thing I get annoyed at are the people like the anti-crypto people, anti-Bitcoin people, really hitting their chest. Told you single family real estate. Yeah.
Listen, I'm down. I'm so fucking down in my crypto portfolio. I don't give a shit. I'm still buying. We bought more today.
Good.
Every other, I told you, every payroll automatically it buys Bitcoin. We just keep on buying. I don't fucking care. You just keep on buying, baby. And that's the thing. But I thought it was interesting because I think there's a lot of uses. But what you said, I read an article. It was not an article. I lied. Okay. I'm sorry. I read an Instagram post. Which I don't know how much.
I read a Harvard business study. I read
a study by Harvard Business School that back in the, in the 90s, there was a newspaper clipping. I don't know if you guys saw it going around Instagram. There's a newspaper clipping where they said, most people think the internet is a fad and this thing that the internet will fizzle out. And I started reading it and I was like, this was actually a thing. And hindsight, John said earlier, hindsight's 2020. Me in 2022, I look at that and I go, who the fuck would have thought the internet was a fad? I mean, I remember when AOL came out, I was a kid and I was like, holy shit, I'm IMing my friends, the Roman 069, like that's, and that was my adolescent.
Yeah, you would leave your away messages up, whatever you were, whatever your vibe was.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And that's what you would do. You would get home out of school, get home off the bus, run to your computer and immediately start IMing your friends, and you would have IM chats with them. And that's how cool you were. And then you'd go to school the next day talking about what you IM'd about the night before.
I remember those days.
But Carlos said people pounding their chest, making fun of us. And I know, Carlos, you do crypto, right? So I say us. John, you got any crypto?
Not currently. I will.
He will now, because we're going to influence.
No, I mean, it's always been a part of my plan is to once I reach a certain income, start taking a percentage and put it into that. Like I always say, people invest in stocks, blah, blah, blah. To me, my businesses that I'm working on is my investment. That
same with me.
Yeah. But I do want to have, I do think that crypto in some degree will be, I'm not sure. I've always it's always confused me. I would love to see some kind of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, whatever, become the new currency. I think it's a brilliant move.
That is why I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm always like, the price changes every minute. How on earth will it work? Because it's not a stable currency. But I'm not the person to answer that question. But I do think that it's going to be a smart move for me to invest.
Taxes need to be
some of it
worked
into
out
it.
on it. So yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, taxes need to be. It wouldn't matter if the price changes if you weren't taxed on every single type of transaction. So that still needs to be worked to use it as a real currency. Same with stable coins, obviously Terra Luna, that whole clusterfuck, the UST coin. Stable coins have issues, and Tether had problems holding its peg. But I don't do it because of like a stock, because I'm not. I used to be a stock guy, but I'm with you. My business is my retirement, my assets. I'm a real estate guy. I focus on that. But I do it because of the future. I don't think like, I'm not investing. Not the reason why I don't invest in stocks is I don't see a stock becoming the future currency or the future technology to run a web application. But I do. I mean, obviously the companies, but I see these cryptos as being where our future is going in the technological space, whether it's blockchain, Web3, whether it's a Bitcoin or a Litecoin or a Digibyte, right? Becoming something that will be a currency. I'm an affiliate of InvestorFuse. If anybody didn't realize that by now, that I'm an affiliate. So whenever I'm touting InvestorFuse, I do affiliate marketing for them. And any money that I make off the affiliate, just to be in full disclosure, immediately goes into crypto. I haven't kept a dime of that. I mean, it's not like, it just immediately goes in. You guys send it to me, immediately gets deposited. Boom, done.
That.
I don't touch it. I don't spend it. I just put it there. Why? Because that's my belief. And you're right. I got made fun of by people, Carlos. You get the DM. Hey, how's your crypto portfolio doing now, man? I should buy. I had a buddy who goes, "Hey, man, you were really
Are you hodling? Are you hodling?
Yeah, he's like, I'm glad I didn't listen to you. He goes, do you think I should buy it now? Ha 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 ha. I'm like, yeah, actually, I fucking do.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do think you should.
And I am too. How much did you lose, bro? How much of your net worth are you down?
You don't lose if you don't take it out.
Exactly. That's what, man. Like,
that's a fun way to think about it. There.
But I mean, that's what it all depends on. It all depends on your end game. Like, if you were doing it like day trading, like some
same
people
thing as the mobile home parks, right? Doesn't matter the price I pay for this if my goal is 30 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you move your stuff to a cold wallet, Carlos?
Belief. I did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember talking about that a couple episodes back.
I am not a affiliate.
What is that? What do you got? Oh yeah, I got a Trezor. I got 2 nanos and a Trezor.
That's just the box.
There are some I'm waiting on transferring. I was hoping Ethereum was going to merge to their proof of stake because their fees were so high. I didn't want to transfer. I didn't want to transfer because the fucking gas fees were so high. I'm like,
yeah,
I'd rather have someone hack this out of my centralized exchange than go through the hassle of moving this, getting 50% of it taken by gas fees. And then for what? And then if I want to sell it, I got to move it back and lose the other 51% in gas fees. I was like, the things you learn as you do more crypto.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting parallel to kind of come to an end of the episode here. It's like it all starts with your core values, beliefs, and kind of your own guiding principles. Talking about Ray Dalio on what you're buying, how you're buying it, and what is your end goal with it. Like if you're buying,
that all changes with the flavor of the day. It's gonna suck.
Yeah, like you should. It's good to have some long-term consistency in that. So it's like if you went into Bitcoin buying it in the 60s or 50s, and you're like, hey, I want to buy this, and I want to make, like John's example, I want to make $3,000 right now. Like you're not looking good. But if you bought it even at 69,000 a coin, and you believe in the long-term utility of blockchain, and if you follow Ray Dalio and you think the US dollar and the US is not going to be the world power, which that seems like exactly what's happening, then maybe you start investing in some other assets as a long-term play. Like I didn't think I was going to touch any of my stuff as far as getting rid of it for at least 10 years. I just kind of want to see where it's at. Yeah. Then you're probably sitting pretty good, and you're like Papa P and I. You're having a grand old Bitcoin could be at 10K, and you probably want to buy more, and you're having a good time, and maybe
just
you're
zoom out, baby.
Yeah,
zoom out.
Zoom out.
Zoom out.
Zoom out. Look at the charts. Overall, they go up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's a crypto winter. I wish I wasn't a part of the last one. I am a part of this one, and we're still buying. I mean, obviously, you just got to be smart about it. Just like real estate, man. Like you're buying these shitty properties, these 2-1 frame houses that have termites and rotting. Yeah, right now you're probably struggling because nobody wants to buy your piece of shit. But if you keep buying your 3-2 block homes, I mean, you're buying them in a solid neighborhood with good schools and good entertainment and shopping around it and good traffic, like good traffic light. I mean, you're not going to go wrong over the long term. And that's the same thing with crypto, man. So yeah, you bought, I mean, Terra Luna was and the thing is, people are surprised that Terra Luna crashed. And I'm not speaking about the project. I'm just speaking about an industry. At the infancy of any industry, shit crashes, there's scams, there's rug pulls, there's charlatans, there's all kinds of these things. And it's been like that since the beginning of fucking time. I'm sure the cavemen were selling people on a square wheel back in the day, trying to tell them that it was going to work. It's just as good as the round one, guys. Trust me, just buy it from me. I'm sure it was happening. And it's how it works.
Cavemen selling courses.
Cavemen selling courses on how to make a wheel. Here's how you start a fire, guys. Here's
cavemen with their aim away messages.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, that's my pulse of the week, man. I saw the crypto thing and it made me think about what was happening. Same thing with the hedge funds. You just got to shift your perspective.
Mm-hmm. I've had this like idea to make this like hobby website called Perspective, because like perspective.io or something, but about people's lives, because I always feel like that's a massive problem that the youth of today are going to have, that they feel like because they have such an access to information and insight into people's lives that they believe that they should be able to make 100K as soon as they graduate from high school. So be like, put your birth date, like you fill it out and say, like, put your birth date in here, your major milestones so far in your life, and then pick a famous person and see where you land on their progression. It'd be like, Gary Vaynerchuk, it took him this long to get to where he was, and you'd be like, oh, I do have like maybe 8 years of hard work before I can get any of that.
Man, that's like, it hits close to home when you say that, man, because I think it's a major problem with our society now. Is like pulse of the week, right? We're always talking about social media, and John's right. It's even for me. One of the things I really need to work on is comparison, and it's like you need to just focus on you. And I think one of our biggest problems is, like John said, you look at it like when I was 20, I wanted to make a shit ton of money. And like, yeah, but I didn't think I was failing if I wasn't making $250,000 a year when I was 23. And yeah, there's some 23, 24-year-olds, but keep this in mind. They haven't been through any negative shit yet. Okay. In order to succeed, you must fail. So anybody you're watching that touts success and hasn't actually lost all their money or made some major mistakes, it's only a matter of time before they did. I had somebody tell that to me. I think I told you I had someone tell that to me when I was younger. They said that, I was going to lose money, And in my mind, I'm never going to lose money. And then I lost some money and I was like, holy shit, I learned a huge fucking lesson. It was only a matter of time when you make a mistake, because it happens and it's okay.
Yep.
But the 24-year-old on Instagram in a Ferrari, like, it's a matter of time before he hits some rough roads, and that's not a bad thing. Will he survive? That's going to be the test of time, right? That's going to be the test. And you're not in a competition, man. Same thing with getting married, having kids, right? Getting a promotion. Same thing with being an entrepreneur. Same thing with how your business is growing and how much revenue your whole company's making, or how many deals you're doing, or how many properties you own and how many doors you own. The only competition is with you.
Yep. How happy and content you are with where you are right now and where you're going.
But it's hard to get perspective on that.
Right. And if you keep comparing yourself to others, then yeah.
That's some deep shit.
Very stoic ending. That's the type of stuff I like to hear and discuss.
We'll leave you deep thoughts with John.
Yeah. We can talk more about that in another episode. We can keep going on that. I mean,
well, hey, that's a good thing. We're on here every week.
I'm sure, Brandon, you even have a teenager. I don't even have a teenager yet, but I just keep thinking about all that stuff. Like, how can I best prepare them in the way the world currently functions to be prepared?
Hats off to you guys.
Work hard and keep going. And failure is good, and you got to learn. You got to get the experience. All of that.
Yeah, I'm raising my son completely differently than I did my daughter because of how much I've grown.
Yeah.
I mean, my sons, I teach them that failure is good. My daughter, I raised on perfection. My son, I'm raising on progress. And now I'm trying to backtrack with my daughter. And that's an error on my fault. Like, I mean, I just got to teach her failure is okay. Whereas when she was younger, straight A's, got to do this, got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to expand your own knowledge base. Well, listen, parents make mistakes. I've been a parent almost my entire adult life. We do the best we can. No one has all the answers. We just try not to fuck up our kids too much.
Same here.
Hats off to you guys. What airport do you fly out of, Poppy? Tampa? What's the closest?
Tampa would be the easiest. I mean, yeah, they're both equal distance, but Tampa's the easiest to get to. Traffic, why?
Just curious if anybody's in the comments. We can look up some Southwest want to get away, Tampa to Baltimore round trip tickets. We might throw those in for you.
Smell the air.
Point here.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Anybody who DMs me will get an immediate webinar link to learn more about REI Op Center on July 7th. I will let you in. We only have room for 100 people, and I will let you in to be one of them.
I'm stoked for that. You guys, I'm excited for you guys because it is just a much needed tool in the space, at least for people that I talk to. Very, very needed tool. July 4th, I've heard people say, once July 4th gets here in the summer is almost gone like that. So June has been really, really quick. 24.
It has been, man.
Q3 starting. I'm going to be on the road the next couple episodes. I just have so many weddings. Happy for people. And I'll be in Asheville, North Carolina. I'll be doing a show for there. My family's on the outskirts of Asheville on a 6.7 acre mountainous pool.
Fabulous
hot tub.
house.
I'll be coming up.
Beautiful. Come up. I might be meeting with some Investor Fuse members. Might be meeting up with Bob Sleeves, who I've got to.
He's in the Asheville area?
No, but he wants to come visit. I've hung out with him when I was in Raleigh before they moved there. But Asheville is beautiful. It's about the exact opposite of Miami. So I think it's kind of cool. I get to go back between Miami and Asheville. But
Asheville really is, isn't
beautiful. It? Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Carolinas are beautiful.
Tune back in at least 5 years, John will be submarine in his North Carolina house, so you can view the mountains behind my desk.
Wait, are we all trying to go to North Carolina?
That's been my plan for like 6 years. So
I like here. I'm so excited for the winter, and like it is hot here, but it was hot in Baltimore City. Like it's similar heat. Like
it's different, man. It's different. I'm going up to PA in July. We go up. We have my family house up there. We go spend like 3 weeks a month up there with the fam and just kind of hang out. And my family's always it's so hot up here. I'm like, it's hot anywhere, but the air is different. Now Baltimore air smells of murder and death and trash from the harbor. But heroin. The North Carolina air smells of crisp autumn leaves and it just smells good, man. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And
it cools down at night. Like that's the key difference. Here in Florida, when you walk out at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's already 90 degrees because it just doesn't get that much cool at night. Up there, it gets cool.
Listen, dude, I was up there, and only Florida people are going to know this joke. I was up there, and the clouds, it was ominous. The clouds are rolling in, dark skies, the fucking thunder is clapping, and it looks like the sky's about to break open and all hell. And people are, like, rushing around. I'm like, we're out on a boat. We're like, holy shit, gotta get back. This is going to be fucking murderous. Rushing back. We emptied out the whole boat, brought everything inside, racing. I'm like, I'm vacation dad mode. Like, come on, everyone, pick up the towels. Let's go. And then it fucking rained. And what they call rain, I was like, this is a storm? Yes. It was like a sprinkle. It was like, in Florida, like Floridians know, like rain down here, when you can walk outside in between like the raindrops, like you can actually walk between the raindrops in Florida and not get really wet. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was like. And I'm like, why is everybody panicking, including us? This isn't even fucking rain. This is what they call a storm. Like in Florida, when we get a storm, you will get picked up off the ground.
Yes.
You will be walking drenched with like 3-inch puddles soaking your feet where you need galoshes.
Yes.
Right? Like you need to be dressed like Paddington Bear in order to get through one of our rainstorms. And I was like, this is what they call a rainstorm? Mm-hmm. I was like, well, I guess we didn't really need to batten the hatches down. It's like, let's go back outside, guys. So we went outside and just hung out in the rain. It wasn't even raining.
Oh yeah, the rain in North Carolina. It's just like it could be longer too, but yeah, Florida storms. People like really have to. Yeah,
I was like, if that's the worst I got to deal with, sign me up.
100%. I have been in North Carolina. We were at one Airbnb where it literally rained for 2.5 days straight. Not a tropical storm, nothing. Yeah. It was just like freaking a lot of rain, but it was never like crazy hard or anything. I did get wet outside just because of the amount of rain, but yeah, the storms in Florida. Oh my God.
You don't know rain until you've been in Florida.
Absolutely.
You need that.
We always would go to the theme parks with because I'm from England, so everybody from England would come over and hang out here. And we'd be like the thunderstorms would roll in at 2:00, and we'd be like, all right, guys, we're just gonna sit inside this building for 30 minutes, and half the park is gonna leave.
Yeah. And we go back out and go because at 2:30 the rain stops.
Exactly. Yep. Florida, love it.
Love it.
All right, guys.
Florida.
Tune in next week for more Florida information, more recession updates. We won't have the GDP results by next week, but we will still be here chatting about everything because we love it.
Do it. Let's fucking do it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Have a good end of the week.
Lock and load.
Peace. Peace.